with 2 locations, 4828 Lake Worth Road and US 1 just south of North Lake.
Anajar and Levine.
Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733.
ESPN 1063.
WUUB Jupiter, a Good Karma Brands radio station. Huddle up.
66 Hitch X Vegas Flare. I'm one ready.
It's time to break down the boldest plays.
Let's go, baby. Boom.
Hardest hits. And the craziest stories from around the NFL.
Touchdown Tampa Bay. Fire the cannons.
This is Sunday Huddle with Colin Russo, presented by Hard Rock Bet.
I believe it's the last Sunday Huddle of the month of February 2025. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Colin Russo and Cade Chumslin with you with our Sunday Huddle presented by Hard Rock Bet. Over on ESPN 1063, Cade is live from the studios in downtown West Palm Beach, the City Place studios, that is. I am on remote in Flagstaff, Arizona, after a packed weekend of low-major Division I college basketball with Northern Arizona taking on Idaho and Eastern Washington on Thursday and Saturday. My brother is a coach there, so that is why I am in town. And, Cade, you believe it or not, at the game yesterday on Saturday, John Stockton in the building. And legendary point guard from the Utah Jazz. And I said hello the whole thing. His son is actually on Eastern Washington, so that was actually cool to see him. The guy's in Flagstaff, Arizona on a road game. I mean, good for him. That's all you could say. But a packed week of sports that just, I guess, coming past us. We had the Four Nations, the NHL new alternative to the All-Star Weekend, which was a massive success commercially, interest-wise, and in the grand scope of the NHL. The NBA last weekend had a whole lot of nothing with their All-Star Weekend. The NFL, you're starting to get whispers about trade values, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. Matthew Stafford is the name that keeps being thrown around, the Los Angeles Rams quarterback, who is coming off a very good year last year where they won a playoff game, and they were probably the closest team of the bunch to beat or to come close to beating the Philadelphia Eagles in the postseason. But we'll get into that and more next hour. We are with you on ESPN 1063. We're presented by Hard Rock Bet. Go get started. Go download it on the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store. Go to hardrock.bet online to get started today because Hard Rock's the best. Because if you're even a new type of player, you're not really sure what to do on your sports book, well, Hard Rock's got you covered because you can just go to the Discover page, see parlays, see promo picks, see what people are tailing, what people are going out, jumping in on, whether it's MMA, tennis, golf, NBA, college basketball, you name it, futures, parlays, overs, unders, the whole thing. They got you covered on the newer side. But if also you're the sophisticated gambler that, wants to add a little pizzazz, sprinkle a little action, you like your bells and whistles with your sportsbook, then Hard Rock's got you covered too. Very niche bets that you could jump in on, or you could just put together really complicated parlays, put as little as $1 to get a maximum amount of value out of that. It's Hard Rock Bet. It's offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically present in Florida. The wager terms and conditions apply. Concerned about gambling? Call 1-888. Admit it. You get $100 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not hit. So keep that in mind when you go get started on Hard Rock Bet. Cade Chumslin, haven't spoken to you since last week. Looking forward to seeing what you think. First of all, let's start on the heat of the week, and that's what went on with the NHL and what with the conversation in relation to how the NBA handled its All-Star Weekend. The NHL obviously was a smattering success, and the NBA was certainly not. Cade, over the past week, you've thought about it a little bit. What's your takeaway on how the parties at hand handled this and what they should do?
Well, I mean, let's just talk about the championship for the Four Nations. It couldn't have gone better. It was just for
U.S. could have won, but other than that.
U.S. could have won, but let's talk about the storylines of that game, right? Canada comes out early, exactly what everyone thought, exactly what they've been doing all tournament long. USA has come back from a lead in every game, back and forth all game long, finally goes into overtime. I believe that was our first overtime game, at least between America
Between the United States.
Between the United States, yeah. So the fact that went into overtime, and then Connor McDavid, considered the best hockey player in the world right now, is the one to make it happen. I wanted America to win, but if you had to have Canada to win, absolute cinema. That's the way to do it. I thought it was a blast watching it. I had a great time. And it's exactly what was supposed to happen for hockey. You talk about the brutality of sports. It's the reason why the NFL right now is having their type of Pro Bowl flag football gimmicky game that they're doing, is because guys don't want to get hit and twist an ankle or something like that. You know how many non-contact injuries we get in the NFL right now? Now we're going to throw guys out there for a real Pro Bowl game. No one wants to do that right now. Same thing, if not worse, for hockey, right? Like, you're talking about guys who got injured during this Four Nations tournament. But when you give them a different motive, that's the key. When you give them a motive for country in a sport that is actually more historically known for country v. country rather than the NHL, I think about all the great Olympics and international tournaments that we've had. That was the key for hockey, and they absolutely nailed it on the head. For the NBA, I'm not here saying that I have the end-all, be-all answer for all of this, but I want to shift blame just a little bit because I think it's been unfair to one specific person. All of last week, I heard hate about LeBron James. And granted, the man has not been the most enthusiastic for the All-Star weekend or the regular season. Dropping out of the All-Star game was definitely a low blow. But to say that All-Star weekend is ruined because LeBron James didn't participate in the dunk contest, I think is a little far-fetched. Because I don't know about you, Colin, but to me, the best dunk contests were the two Aaron Gordon matchups in 2016 and 2020, when Aaron Gordon famously got ripped of both of those by Zach LaVine and Derrick Jones Jr. In that 2020 matchup, we saw a brutal voting by Dwayne Wade and Scottie Pippen. Since then, Aaron Gordon said, I'm no longer competing in the dunk contest, and every other dunk contest since then has been atrocious. Horribly bad. The biggest jumpers in the NBA not wanting to compete because here's the thing, no one trusts the voting. I think that moment in 2020 when Dwayne Wade and Scottie Pippen ripped off Aaron Gordon, the NBA dunk contest was ruined from there. I don't think anyone who was even considering wanting to go, and I believe it was shortly after that John Morant said that the NBA dunk contest is a joke. Everyone understood in that moment that it's not going to go to the best dunker. It's going to happen to go to maybe your last dunk being the best. Aaron Gordon in that dunk contest went 50s across the board or 10s across the board for every single dunk until the last one against Taco Fall, and he lost the whole thing. Everyone in the building knew he was the better dunker, and everyone thought he was the better dunker, although I think Zach LaVine gave him a better run for his money back in 2016. Those two in particular, where you consider at least 4 of the top 5 best dunks in history happened in 2016 and 2020. And the guy who probably should have won both of them didn't win either of them, and now I don't think anyone wants to do it. That's my take on the dunk contest and All-Star Weekend. All-Star Weekend gets ruined as a whole because of the dunk contest. I agree with that, but 2020 was the nail in the coffin for never getting the stars back in the game.
Wow, talk about something specific. 2020 dunk contest, the voting on Scottie Pippen and D. Wade was the straw that broke the camel's back?
Absolutely. Do you not remember this? This was
I do
massive.
remember this. I'm trying to understand the implications in the grand scheme of things. I think there's something to what you're saying about not trusting the voting, but I think it's more so to all right, here's the bottom line. With the dunk contest, it's not the best dunkers in the world participating in the dunk contest. The best dunkers in the world are not in the NBA. The best dunkers in the world are not in the G League. They're not involved in the NBA in any capacity. It might be the best athletes, but there are specialist dunkers that are on social media, that are on their own little tours. Those guys, the spectrum of where the best dunkers lie, it used to be in the NBA, and now it's not. So in the past 15 years, that there has been a whole little niche side league of specialist dunkers. Those are the guys that have, I guess, taken some steam or taken some wind out of the sails. That's number one. Number two, so if you're looking for the dunk contest to be the best dunkers in the world, look somewhere else because that is not where you're going to find it. So, all right, well, what's your allure of the dunk contest? I think it's important for people, as in the fan, the consumer, to see people or players that are relatively well known, are good players, are consistent in the NBA, and to your point, Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine were relatively no names in that first one, in that 2016 one, both young players and both good players now, but both young players relatively unknown then. The way I look at it, and that was a great dunk contest, is I think you're better off trying to get stars involved. I think people would be more inclined to watch Ja Morant, Anthony Edwards, and one or two other well-known All-NBA caliber stars do a dunk contest and it be slightly worse product in terms of the quality of dunk comparatively to Mac McClung and I remember the Glenn Robinson year. and all those guys who nobody knows, and you're learning who the guy is while they're doing the intro of the dunk contest. That, to me, takes a lot of steam out of the event, is that you're not getting the top-tier player or the relatively well-known player to participate. So whether you think that's because of the voting that deterred the star, or you think it's the ultimate star that, I guess, downplayed, demeaned, belittled the event, and that is sort of trickling down, as in LeBron, whatever you want to chalk it up to, I think they all sort of have a big piece or a big place in the grand scheme of why. But in terms of the event itself, I think it's too far gone because you're not having the best dunkers in the world. You cannot convince the richest stars in the world to participate when more likely than not they're going to screw up dunks, and it looks worse than it is. And then number 3 is whether they trust the actual process of the dunk contest or not, and the politics surrounding it, and whether these guys are good voters, or they know what they're talking about, the whole thing. So off of that, it's like figure skating. Everything gets 10, or well, if everything's special, then nothing is. So, Cade, understand both sides. Quick spiel there on what I think it's going to be, but I think people will be more enthralled with the star participating comparatively to the top-tier dunker. That's just my take.
I agree with you, and I think that the star doesn't want to do it anymore because they don't trust the actual process
and
of
I
the
also
dunk
think
contest.
they just don't think it's important. They don't think it's important.
True that.
The star is thinking winning the dunk contest is not an important piece of my life, and they have a point. Who cares? And whether you think that's a big deal or not, to me, the dunk contest has never been. It's never done it for me. I've never been needed to watch something like that. It doesn't really interest me. But I see it. They don't think it's important, and they don't trust the process of it. All right, well, if I don't trust the process of it, and I don't like the voting, and I know I'm going to get robbed here, and then number 2, I don't get anything out of this other than either I'm great at it, and I get all the praise for about a grand total of 12 minutes, or I stink at it, and nobody forgets it. So I see both sides, but it's a tale too far gone with that contest. Nobody cares. People will continue not to care. And that's just going to be how it is.
Do you find it interesting that there's bigger stars in the three-point contest than there are the dunk contest?
Because it's easy. Because these guys shoot threes all the time. It's a low-stakes environment. They miss threes. All right, well, you move on with your life. All right, we didn't make any threes. We'll deal with that. Dunk, you got to get creative. You got to get celebrities involved. You got to get a car on the court. You got to think of something different. And not only that, you got to think of something different that's doable. And so you have to be an elite. And also, there's more shooters than there are great athletes. or I guess otherworldly dunk athletes comparatively to shooters. It's easier to shoot. Any player can shoot. But dunking, it's a little bit more of at least an elite dunker that could do a flashy showboat dunk. It's few and far between in the grand scheme of things, really. All these guys can do windmills, but none of them can do whatever the hell they do nowadays. Jumping over cars and jumping over 8 feet people underneath the rim. So, see both sides. It's a gimmicky event. It's a gimmicky weekend. There's no invigoration of the players. You gotta change the target. You gotta change what you're trying to accomplish. That's the only thing the NBA can do here, and the NHL just gave you a blueprint. So we'll see what they do with that. We'll see if they could adjust and make it relatively interesting in the grand scope of things. That's Kate Chumps and Colin Russo with you. Sunday Huddle on ESPN 106.3. Matthew Stafford made headlines. Had a good year for the Rams. Has had other, I guess, resounding success since he was traded in that Jared Goff trade a couple years ago. Won a Super Bowl. The whole thing. Now, all of a sudden, coming out of nowhere, that, well, the Rams are going to trade Cooper Kupp, their star receiver, and they let Cooper know we're going to figure this out. And just a heads up, dude, in good faith, we are going to trade you. And now, all of a sudden, the Rams have granted, I'll try to phrase this properly, have granted Stafford and his company, his agents, their opportunity to reach out to other teams and gauge value. And it's not a trade request. That was abundantly clear in the report. This is not a trade request. It is an understanding of value. So if Stafford goes somewhere and realizes that I could go to a pretty good team and get the Rams a little bit of a return, then it might be both parties pretty happy because there's allegations. There's stories about Stafford's family not being happy in L.A. and not liking it and the whole thing, and maybe he thinks there's time for a split. I know he likes playing there, but I think it's more about him and his family. So now, all of a sudden, Matthew Stafford might be on the move. And in a year where the quarterback class is not good and the quarterback free agent class is not very good either, that makes an interesting wrinkle in the discussion of where he's going to line up in terms of the commodities that are going to be available as a player. And Matthew Stafford, I think, probably would resoundingly take the number one spot. He's the most experienced. He can make a bad team good pretty quickly, and he can make a good team great if he goes to the right spot. So Matthew Stafford on the move here, maybe on the move here, Cade, gauging interest from other teams. Maybe he gets traded. Maybe he'll be a team like New York. Whatever it may be, number one, does this surprise you? And number two, you think it's in the Rams' interest to make a move to get Stafford out of there?
If you move on from Matthew Stafford, you're out of your mind. These guys were just a few plays away from getting to the NFC Championship and potentially the Super Bowl, and it wasn't Matthew Stafford's fault. It was not being able to stop Saquon Barkley, and at one point wasn't being able to protect Matthew Stafford.
Had him on the 17-yard. They were down 13 points with 4 minutes to go. They were on the 17-yard line on a 4th and 11 with 3 minutes to go with a chance to win the game.
That doesn't sound like a Matthew Stafford problem to me. I thought he was fantastic, especially when you consider how many injuries this team had to go through in the first half of the season. I had this team written off. Cooper Kupp, gone. Puka Nacua, gone. Offensive linemen, basically all of the offensive line, gone. And this team fought back, led by Matthew Stafford. If you're the Rams, you take advantage of him only going to get paid about $27 million this year. Because I don't know about you, Colin, but if you're just talking about money value, Stafford to me is a $40 million quarterback plus.
At least. He's a great bang for your buck.
Right? So the Rams right now are taking advantage of that by only having to pay him less than $30 million, right?
Now, if Stafford were to request a trade and get him and think, all right, you know what, I think I've ran my time in L.A., I don't think any Ram fan is necessarily going to. You can't get up and complain about it because this guy won your Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
This guy won you the big one. This guy's been a perennial playoff contender with you guys. He's had some great runs. He was a perfect match with McVay. And maybe it's time to just shift on amicably in each of your directions. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I agree with Cade. I think it's a bad thing. I don't know why the Rams rebranding is tricky. And if you're going to rebrand so drastically with no Kupp and no Stafford, whatever it may be, now you have McVay, and McVay's the equalizer. McVay's going to have a good team regardless. Just goes to show that even if you have a great year like that, I mean, you're not untouchable. And Stafford is not untouchable. Now, let's flip it. Teams that can make a move for Stafford, Giants are being floated and giving up their first-round pick, which is like the 4th overall pick in the draft for Stafford. There's teams like the Jets. There's teams like the Steelers that are going to be in the mix, maybe to make a move for a quarterback. Teams like the Raiders who might need a quarterback, a bridge quarterback. To you, is there a team that is singing to you in terms of you got to go get him? Go get Stafford. If it's possible, go do it. Make it happen. He can take you to the next level.
I'm going to say the Raiders. And because I like how Pete Carroll's only on for about, what is it? What's Pete Carroll's deal? 3-4 years?
Yeah, so it depends. Nobody knows how long he'll be there. He's
exactly,
older, yes.
Right? So if you can make a run in 3 to 4 years with the last few years you have of Matthew Stafford plus Pete Carroll, make a quick team to work with legendary players, that's a good run there for the Raiders. And then you can go out and get a new quarterback and a new head coach in the same year, which we know historically has also been nice. We've seen it with several teams now, where if you go get the head coach and the quarterback at the same time and have them work together to rebuild the team, that can also be a good branding ticket as well. So I like the Raiders. I think Stafford and Brady, as we all know, Brady's the GM in this whole situation. Brady with Stafford working together to build a team, I think that would be great. He wouldn't have to move very far right over there to Las Vegas. I'm sure there's plenty of Stafford fans already in Vegas with how close the cities are together. In my opinion, I don't think Stafford should leave. I actually think Stafford should stay, even with the less amount of money that he's probably worth, because
maybe he wants to get out of California. Maybe he wants to get out of L.A. Maybe it's a family thing at this point. Hey, I already won my Super Bowl. If I could finish my career in maybe a bit of an easier spot for me, a spot that I enjoy more.
All right, then that's not Las Vegas. That's not
Let's
Las
go
Vegas.
LA. I got young kids. Let's go to Vegas.
Let's go to Vegas. Let's go to New York City.
Right.
No, but okay, if that's the case, if we're talking that, I'm talking simply balling out, then I'd stick with the Rams. If we're talking in just a nice, easier play to
finish off your career somewhere.
Pretty much. Tennessee, if they go and get Travis Hunter first overall, but that's to me not a winning situation, right?
I'm surprised you haven't brought up the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, Russell Wilson has been, I didn't think he had a bad year. He didn't blow the ceiling off anything, so to speak, But I think the Steelers are, in terms of capitalizing on a team that is, I guess, well put together, especially defensively. They need their pieces offensively. You could go get a Super Bowl winning, a proven, top, in my opinion, a top 6-7 player at the position, bang for your buck, actually starting under center in a big game. I'm taking Stafford over anybody except for about 4 or 5 players. And if you could go get him and insert him into trying to, like we said, get the most out of him to finish off his career, get the most out of that roster, and maybe take them to new heights, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers make a lot of sense. I think the Giants could make a lot of sense too. The Giants are wondering, what are we going to do with quarterback? You can't bring in Darnold. He's been in New York and he's crumbled. You can't pay him the money and make it make sense. And I don't think Darnold would want to go to New York even. You don't have a draft position to go get a quarterback that is going to start for you next year. Kirk Cousins is 35 years old and got benched midseason for the Atlanta Falcons. You're not going to get Rodgers to jump across town. There's not a lot of options. So the Giants is another one that makes a lot of sense if you're looking for a bridge quarterback that would protect not only Dable and Joe Shane, the general manager and head coach of the Giants, because people are starting to ask questions about the direction of the Giants, where they're trying to be. Well, Matthew Stafford can start to alleviate some of those dark clouds because he is a floor raiser. He is somebody who makes a bad team good or a good team great. Off of that, I think those two options are singing to me because they don't have a lot of options to get a quarterback. Tennessee can go get a quarterback. Tennessee is in a position to go draft a quarterback and have him start and go figure it out. The Raiders in a trickier spot as well. I think Darnold might make more sense to them as well. But that's neither here nor there. If a team that can make a trade and go get Stafford tomorrow, I think Pittsburgh should take a look, and I think the New York Giants should take a look. Because both those teams, I guess, need a quarterback to bridge certain, I guess, for the Steelers, are trying to find a young guy. They haven't found a young guy. It's been forever. And they need somebody to bridge that. They need somebody to maximize this roster. And on the Giants side, they need somebody to bridge it. I think those two teams make a lot of sense.
So the other two, there's one other team I want to bring up, but concerning those teams that you just mentioned, Pittsburgh Steelers aren't going anywhere with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator. I don't care what quarterback is at that position.
Don't disagree.
Arthur Smith has no idea how to run the ball, and it's not going to matter who his quarterback
Don't
is.
have a ton of talent offensively, but I understand the point.
No. He had Bijan Robinson last year in Atlanta, and he was unbelievably underutilized. Bijan popped off this year for the Atlanta Falcons after Arthur Smith was gone. Najee Harris, who a lot of people are writing off as a mid-level running back, I don't think has even been tapped yet, and that man had one of his worst years of the year this year because of Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator. Matthew Stafford at the quarterback would make things a little bit better, but that team will not have long-term success if Arthur Smith is your offensive coordinator. For the Giants, Dable is gone next year. Why would you have a quarterback who you know is only going to be working with his head coach for 1 year?
Hold on. But the people making the decision are the general manager and the head coach. The general manager and the head coach are locked at the hip. If Shane goes, Dable goes. If Dable goes, then Shane's going to go. So
Both
they have to do. They just got the vote of confidence of Mara. John Mara, the Giants owner, said, "All right, you two need to figure this out. And if they don't figure it out, then let's wait till we get fired. They got to do something."
So if you're Stafford, though, why would you ever want to go to New York if you know those two guys are on the hot seat the entire time? The other place I think Stafford could go that's got a long-term success plan ready for at least the next 3 or 4 years is the New Orleans Saints with Kellen Moore. New Orleans Saints get off of Derek Carr. You bring in someone who has known winning and a winning formula, because I think that team does have enough talent currently to build off of. I know they have zero cap space.
If you're able to flip the Carr, and you're talking about flipping Carr and Stafford,
yeah.
Depends if the Rams would be interested in that. Would the Rams, in a sense, be more interested in the 4th overall pick from the Giants, or would they be more interested in Derek Carr, Stafford, maybe something else sprinkled straight up? That's a good question. And I'm curious. That's a McVay thing. If McVay likes Carr, I think he'll do it. But I could totally see McVay ship Stafford out and make one of two moves. Number one, he could go sign Darnold, somebody who worked for Kevin O'Connell, utilized under Kevin O'Connell well, definitely would work in a McVay offense, young. He wouldn't be terribly expensive, but would be in the realm of 40-something million, could win you games, would have a camaraderie with Darnold. I don't think that's without a discussion.
Do you think we're overreacting to this Darnold 1 year amazing season? I kind of want to pump the brakes a little bit on the Sam Darnold.
Well, why? So a lot of people, why are we concluding that the Sam Darnold thing worked? It's because of the coaching marriage, right? It's because of Kevin O'Connell getting the most out of Sam Darnold. Or where is Kevin O'Connell from? He's a Sean McVay descendant.
I see the tree. I see everything connecting, but I also watched Sam Darnold play his 2 worst games in the
last
two games that he was supposed to, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying
Won
Derek
14
Carr.
won 14 games.
I'm not
we want to
saying-
give Derek Carr the keys to the castle. How are you not going to
I'm
give
not
the keys
saying
to Sam Darnold?
I'm not saying Derek Carr is the best man option as well, but like everyone is saying that Sam Darnold is the number 1 free agent in the NFL this year of all positions. I'm not exactly sure that's the case, considering there's a lot of guys.
Quarterbacks, there's not many that
For the quarterbacks, yeah, but like I'm saying, like I was looking at a whole bunch of lists this morning. It's Sam Darnold, Sam Darnold, Sam Darnold, and we've got a whole bunch of those Philadelphia Eagles defensive men who are up for grabs right now too. And I would almost take any one of those guys over Sam Darnold to start my team with.
Here's the way I look at it. If you want to rain on Darnold's parade, let me ask you this. They had Cousins for years. Why didn't they win 14 games with Cousins? Why weren't they? Sure, no postseason success, fair. But that team was much better this year than they were in previous years with, a little bit of a revamped defense, but another year of Flores, fine. But offensively, humming. Much better offensively than they were with Darnold than they were with Cousins, ever. So why is that the case? It's not just because of the marriage it's not just because Kevin O'Connell has taken a step in coaching. It's because Darnold was a perfect fit. Darnold was a perfect fit. Now, Darnold struggled at the end of the year, and that soured the end of the season. But you don't win 14 games in the NFL and not reap any benefit from it. That's the one thing I'll say. All right, how about that? You don't like the Darnold move? How about this? Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a free agent. He will be cheap. He will, if you talk about it, Aaron Rodgers had a decent season. He's 42, 43. He'd be a 1 or 2 year bridge quarterback. He'd have a marriage with Sean McVay. McVay can get something out of Rodgers. I don't think anybody would dispute that. Rodgers in LA is a good story for the NFL.
Good story for the NFL, not good story for LA.
Here's the way. Listen, I understand Rodgers is kind of like a ticking time bomb with the extracurriculars that he brings, but the Rams wouldn't deal with it. He's not going to the Rams to be Mr. General Manager like he would for the Jets.
That's true. McVay would keep him in check.
He's pulling his Brett Favre Minnesota Vikings. That's what he's doing. He doesn't need to be with the Vikings. He'll be with the Rams. Favre had success with the Vikings. So there's something to that, all right, well, stop number 1 was a complete disaster. Let's revamp, reset. All right, I want 1 or 2 more years. If I need a bridge, boom, right to the Los Angeles Rams. Is it the right move? No. Is it intriguing? Yes. I see both sides here, but, I mean, if McVay wanted it, this is a McVay thing. If McVay wants to work with Darnold, if he wants to spend the money on Darnold, or he doesn't think it's worth it, or does he want to spend a little amount of money on Rodgers? They have a good young defense. They have stars all over the field. They have a good offense. They're going to be a little bit younger. It's not the worst idea in the world. I think both, if they want to go Darnold, Carr makes sense. Carr's probably the worst of the 3.
True.
If they want to go Darnold or they want to go Rodgers in terms of getting a bang for your buck, then they could have the 4th pick in the draft that they ship them to the Giants, and then they could go get Rodgers in there with a top 5 draft pick. That is not the worst thing in the world if you're a Ram fan.
No, it's not. What's a better story for the NFL, Rodgers in LA or Rodgers working underneath Tom Brady in Las Vegas?
That's a good question. I would say Rodgers in Vegas would be more intriguing, but the Rodgers and Rams, they would be good.
They would be good. No, I'm not saying. Yeah, they would definitely be good.
They would be winning games. Off-season story would be the Brady comparison. But once they start losing games because that team's not ready to win, then you start to step back a little bit. But he'd win games for the Rams.
For sure.
Sunday Huddle presented by Hard Rock Bet. Kate Chums and Colin Russo. We roll on here. Expansion. All major sports leagues, MLB, NFL, NBA, not the NHL, but college football, college basketball now flirting with expanding their postseason. More teams, play-ins, NFL expanded to 7, baseball expanded to 12. Is this a good thing or bad thing? Are we hitting the same wall? When does it stop? We'll get into that and more next. Stick around for it. Sunday Huddle on ESPN 106.3.
Live from the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. This is ESPN 106.3.
Looking to lose weight without painful injections? Introducing semaglutide oral spray, a game changer in weight loss, now available at whyweight.net. This revolutionary spray delivers the proven power of semaglutide in an easy, needle-free, affordable solution. Get started today. Visit whyweight.net to learn more about the semaglutide oral spray and take control of your weight loss journey. That's the letter Y, WEIGHT.net.
While it's not always possible to see contaminated water coming out of the faucet, the taste is difficult to ignore. And what about plastics and pharmaceuticals now in the water? The team at Culligan is here to help. Culligan offers water testing and reverse osmosis systems designed to filter out those contaminants right at the source. Culligan has been helping the local community with water issues since 1936. Schedule your appointment today at Culligan.com.
Hey, Culligan man!
This is the sound of real people across Florida betting on sports. It's the sound of winning your bet, only on Hard Rock Bet. And if your first bet doesn't win, you get up to $100 back to try again. Hard Rock Bet is Florida's only legal sports book. Your home for betting hoops for any sport you choose. Download Hard Rock Bet now and get 2 shots at your first bet. Win, or you'll get up to $100 back as a bonus bet. Offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically present in Florida to play. Terms and conditions apply. Concerned about gambling? Please call 1-888-ADMIT-IT.
Hey, it's CCAT. You want to know the secret to dropping 17 pounds in 28 days? It's Metrum MD's medical weight loss program in Palm Beach Gardens. The medical team here is amazing. They take the guesswork out of weight loss with cutting-edge meds and personalized plans that work. I lost 17 pounds in less than a month, and I'm losing weight fast enough to stay motivated. The place is busy because the results speak for themselves. Want to experience it for yourself? Visit Metrum MD in Palm Beach Gardens for a free consultation or check out MetrumMD.com. That's M-E-T, the word trim, MD.com. Let's do this thing together.
This is ESPN 106.3, a Good Karma Brands radio station.
Find official rules for all your favorite ESPN West Palm contests by visiting ESPNWestPalmContests.com. That's ESPNWestPalmContests.com. You're listening to ESPN 106.3, the ESPN app, and streaming on your smart speaker.
At St. Lucie Battery and Tire, batteries came before tires. We've been selling and servicing all types of batteries for over 50 years. So when you need a battery for nearly anything, we have it, as well as the fast, professional installation you need. We carry premium batteries for all your needs: automotive, commercial, marine, RV, and specialty. We also offer delivery and on-site installation, serving our customers quality products for over 50 years in the home of honest, reliable service. Go to slbt.com and book your next appointment.
Introducing the bold, the powerful, the all-new 2025 Range Rover Sport P360 SE. A luxury SUV that commands attention with its refined design, dynamic performance, and cutting-edge technology. Lease the 2025 Range Rover Sport for just $12.99 per month for 36 months. Drive in style, power, and comfort, all for just $12.99 a month. Visit Land Rover Palm Beach today and take the new Range Rover Sport for a spin. Terms and conditions apply. See dealer for details.
Calling all sports fans, grab your MVP card and head to Duffy's where you can catch all of the action. Not an MVP? Sign up for free and start earning rewards today. Duffy's is voted the best sports grill year after year with their award-winning burgers and wings. Don't forget about Duffy's famous 2-for-1 drinks all day, every day. And with over 80 TVs in every location, you'll never miss a minute of the game. Visit Duffy'sMVP.com to learn more. Duffy's, our game is always on.
Let's go. Double right, scat right, double cowboy. Double right, scat right, double cowboy.
This is Sunday Huddle with Colin Russo, presented by Hard Rock Bet.
Truck accident, suffered a slip and fall, had an accident of any kind. My friends Mark Anajar and Glenn Levine over at Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys, they're here to fight for you. They don't charge you unless you win. They work tirelessly to get you the maximum compensation that you deserve. Don't settle for just any attorney. Demand Anajar and Levine today, because that's the Anajar and Levine difference. All it takes, one phone call to take back control of your life today. That's 1-800-747-FREE. 1-800-747-3733. Don't waste any time in getting back to what you deserve today. Take back control now with Anajar and Levine. Colin Russo, Kate Chumsman with you on Sunday Huddle, presented by Hard Rock Bet on ESPN 106.3. I'm live on remote in Flagstaff, Arizona. Cade is live on site in the City Play Studios in downtown West Palm Beach. 23rd of February, expansion. Been the talks of basically every single league throughout professional American sports. There's flirtations with the NBA expanding teams. Hockey is expanding a team every so often. And MLB is going to be looking to expand to 2 extra teams, probably Salt Lake City, Nashville, whoever it may be. all the postseasons. NBA has just expanded to the play-in. The NFL expanded an extra team. MLB expanded an extra team each side. There's all these leagues. College football playoffs just expanded. It's looking to expand again. Now the NCAA tournament for basketball is flirting with the idea of adding teams, making it a 72-team field, a 78-team field, whatever it may be. All of these different leagues, basically every single one, there's one umbrella, expansion. When does it stop? Is it always a good thing to expand? Does that guarantee that there's going to be an innovation attached to it, a new level of intrigue? Or are we sort of aiming to run into the same wall of too much, too much, too much? Cade, your takeaway.
I think that we're at a pretty good balance right now. I feel like every major league has kind of made an expansion within the past decade.
At least.
Right?
And I guess my biggest thing, listen, the teams are going to expand. There's so many good players. Cities need it. It's the playoffs. When there's too many teams in the playoffs relatively easily, I think it takes away from the regular season. Baseball adds a couple other teams, more teams getting through more teams getting into the postseason, and then all of a sudden the regular season takes a bit of a shot. And then NBA, 2/3 of the league makes playoffs. 2/3.
Yeah, that one's
you're
too
wondering
much.
You're wondering why nobody cares about the regular season. Well, I'll tell you why. Because every team makes the postseason. And there's always 4 or 5 teams tanking. All right, then there's 5 other bubble teams. That's it. So, NFL, it's competitive to get into the postseason, but there's still teams that don't necessarily can coast the last game or two of the season because they get in. My takeaway is that at what point do we hit the red light on this? At what point is too much? Are we just going to keep it? Is it inevitable? We're just going to continue expanding? Who watched the college football playoff this past year and thought, boy, would this be better if we had 5 more teams in the mix?
I didn't. That takes wild.
And
that
they're going to do it. Okay, they're going to do it.
No,
they're
just got to. If you reseed it, it'll so much fix everything.
I agree, but they're going to do it. That's going to be
ridiculous.
That's going to be a 16-team playoff before we know it.
It's all about the discrepancy of the best to mid-tier. You know what I'm saying? In the NFL, I don't think it's as big of a discrepancy between the 2 seed and the 7 seed. Now, the 2 seed always seems to win, and then there's the Dallas Cowboys that lose to the Packers, right? So I think that you can make that balance. And also, by the way, I only think the NFL made their expansion in the playoffs because the 1 seed and the 2 seed always seem to make the championship games because they had the home field advantage with the bye.
They wanted more games. Yeah.
Well, they also wanted to take away the advantage of the 2 seed always getting to the championship because of that home seed bye. And the only way to do that is to add 1 extra team to each side of the conference.
Make them play.
I was fine with that, right? In the NBA, I don't exactly know what the thought process was because, Colin, why did they make this? Was it because no one cared about the regular season?
I'll tell you why. They want to make it's a 7-game series in the first round of the NBA playoffs. That takes a week and a half to 2 weeks to complete.
Okay.
So the person like you and I are going to have to sit there for Celtics Magic first round matchup in April, and it takes 2 weeks to complete.
Yeah.
I think the NBA is trying to establish a sense of win or go home, a bit of desperation.
Then why don't you just take
in the postseason?
Then why don't you just take a page out of the MLB book and make the first round best out of 3, the second round best out of 5, and the third round?
Games. I agree. It used to be best of 5. It was best of 5 for years, back in the 80s. But you lose games. What would we rather? Increase intrigue, increase desperation by adding games, or do the same by losing games?
Now, tell me this, Colin, because I think you potentially know more about this sport than I do. The NHL has the exact same playoff system as the NBA, correct? It's outside of the play-in.
There's a wild card factor in terms of guys getting in.
Yes.
Correct.
But it's
NBA is based on the conference.
But as soon as it starts, though, it's best of 7, right?
Correct.
Like at the beginning, right? I never feel like there's a lot of waiting period for the NHL. Or maybe
they don't have the travel periods that the NBA does.
That's what I thought. Okay, so I was missing something there.
There's the what is it? 2 days in between?
Yeah, 2 days in between the travel days. You're right. Until you get to the end, and it's only 1 day between 5, 6, and 7, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So usually when they flip home, they will add an extra day of travel.
Do you think that taking the MLB, because I love the MLB playoffs. MLB playoffs are fantastic compared to the regular season, the way they've got the whole thing formatted. Do you think it would be better for the NBA to do a 2-3-2 instead of a 2-2-1-1-1?
In order to save time. People have thought about it because, in a way, with the travel days, especially in the MLB, it almost hurts it because you want to play the next day.
Yeah.
There's more situation. I think it's probably good, but it's almost advantageous to the team that has the 3 because you just got to steal 1, and then all of a sudden you got 3 at home with a chance to close it. So there's reasons that they don't do it anymore, but I see both sides. I really do. Now,
because I think I think there's other ways to help the competitiveness of the regular season and the playoffs besides just adding more teams.
Well, how do you do that? There's 2 ways to do it. Either you increase the number of teams and you get the bottom of the pap. The Detroit Pistons of the world and the Magics have to duke it out to get into the last couple seeds of the regular season. Or do you make it just the top? Baseball, very good at that because even in the old days with the 1-game wild card, you have to be amongst the top of your division, of the top of your league in order to get that bid into the postseason, which is why end-of-season September baseball is excellent. So there's that. There's the exclusivity factor. Or there's a factor of, all right, well, if we just get more teams involved, then teams are fighting for seeding, and the teams at the bottom are fighting for a spot. So there's 2 ways to do it. I see both sides. But my point is the expansion. When is it? College basketball, the NCAA tournament, it's been 64 teams since 1985. It expanded to 68 with the first 4 in 2011. So that's 40 years of it being 64. The base, I'm not going to include the first 4 for now, but the base, the chunk of it, 64 teams. I don't watch that every year and think, boy, if we had extra games on Monday and on Tuesday and Wednesday, this would be fantastic. Nobody says that. Nobody says that. We don't need a bigger – you have the 3 weekends of nonstop tournament action, and then you move on with your life. That's kind of the magic of it. That's kind of the beauty of it. Then the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday you have off, and then you're back at it on Thursday. That's why it's great. And I don't know if it's in anybody's interest to expand on that front, but they might because of money. And that, to me, the greed's attached to it. You're gonna hurt the product. You're gonna hurt the consumer because then there's gonna be less interest in certain levels of the season when more teams get in. I don't know if there's a right answer to this, but if I'm gonna go league by league really quick, NBA, it's hurt with too many games. And the college basketball, don't touch it because it's perfect. And if it's perfect, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yep.
College football, you said the same thing as me. Nobody watched that and thought, oh, boy, if South Carolina was in this, I think.
Yeah, no.
Nobody said that.
Nope.
Not after what we saw in those first-round games. Nobody said that. And then
I don't even mind the other, non-teams getting in. Just don't put them as the bye weeks.
Right, which they will fix. That's a different story. That's formatting. NHL is a good system with the interdivisional plays and the wild cards and the whole thing. They have a very a cool little fun postseason where geographically it makes a lot of sense too. That's part of the reason why they could do the 1 after 1 because a lot of these teams are close. And then the NFL is untouchable. NFL is its own entity. Let's leave it out of it. Whatever the NFL does is right. That's that story. To me, I'm thinking that we're going to run into a wall eventually of when this is not going to no longer work or when you're going to have a bad move that hurts, that acts as a detriment to the product. And for me, Cade, I'm thinking that stay away from the college sports. Nothing needs to expand. NBA, I would shrink it if it was me. I would shrink it.
Yep.
Go back to the 8. Make it a best of 5 to open it up, or keep it the way it is and make it best of 5 in that opening series. Just get it done. Get to the meat and potatoes quicker. And then the MLB, I actually thought the MLB expansion was good. Expanding to the extra team, I actually thought helped because there's still teams fighting for their lives, but they're in the 80 win range, in the 87 to 88 win range instead of the 95 win range that it used to be.
Yep.
So off of that, I'm okay with it.
I like how the MLB also uses that to expose bad division winners too. And this is coming from a Minnesota Twins fan.
And you got to keep the division winners. You don't change that.
No, you do. No. I'm not saying you change that, but my dad's from Minnesota. I'm a Minnesota Twins fan in the baseball world, and we get exposed as frauds for winning that poor division basically every year, right? Against other better teams who happen to be in stacked divisions. So I like how the MLB kind of hits the checks and balances with their playoff system.
Yeah. Kate Chumson, Colin Russo with you on Sunday Huddle, presented by Hard Rock Bet. That was our expansion talks presented by Hexas MD, your partner in weight management methods. Visit HEXISMD.com to get started today. That's HEXISMD.com. We got to blitz the book, make a couple parlays, put together a couple bets, the two of us to close out the program next. Stick around for it. Sunday Huddle, presented by ESPN, presented by Hard Rock Bet on ESPN 106.3.
Live from the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. This is ESPN 106.3.
Is your air or water flowing perfectly in your home? If the answer is no, EDS is yes. Theo here, and for me, EDS Air Conditioning and Plumbing is my go-to, and it should be yours too. EDS is Palm Beach County's trusted AC and plumbing expert. They'll make sure your air and water flow perfectly. EDS is a train comfort specialist. It's hard to stop a train. Go to edsisyes.com. That's edsisyes.com. When comfort matters, EDS is yes.
This is the sound of turning small bets into legendary wins. Only on the Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app. The sound of parlays. The sound of paydays. The sound of watching the game will never be the same. Hard Rock Bet has already paid out millions and millions in parlays to people across Florida. Download Hard Rock Bet now, and if your first bet doesn't win, get up to $100 back as a bonus bet. Offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically present in Florida to play. Terms and conditions apply. Concerned about gambling? Please call 1-888-ADMIT-IT.
Business owners, are your employees driving you nuts? Is money tight? Or have you just poured your heart and soul into your business and now it's time to retire and just relax? At Transworld Business Advisors, they have buyers from all over the world ready to buy your business now. Call for a confidential conversation about your business's current value. 561-203-5121. That's 561-203-5121 or visit tworld.com today.
Attention South Florida! The PGA Tour champions and the Pro Football Hall of Fame are teaming up for a one-of-a-kind event, the James Hardy Pro Football Hall of Fame Invitational. From March 31st to April 6th, the action takes over the old course at Broken Sound in Boca Raton, featuring Hall of Fame legends like Warren Sapp, Calvin Johnson, Andre Reed, Rondé Barber, Chris Carter, and more. Tickets are on sale now at JamesHardyInvitational.com. Don't miss your chance to be a part of the home of legends.
Hi, I'm Scott Smith with Smith Ball Baez and Prather, Florida Injury Lawyers. As you have likely seen and heard, law firm advertising is at an all-time high. Attorney ads seem to be part of every radio and TV commercial segment. Some firms are even using paid actors and actresses to speak for them. At Smith Ball Baez and Prather, we know that the decision to hire a law firm should never be based on advertisements alone. It is our past results and many positive 5-star reviews that we encourage you to read at smithball.com to learn more about our law firm. We have board-certified lawyers. We have lawyers listed in the best lawyers in America and in super lawyers. But most importantly, we have experienced lawyers located right here in Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast that are ready to be your advocate and your voice, and fully prepared to start fighting for your legal rights today. Our purpose, legal power. Our mission, huge results. If you've been injured, the lawyers at Smith Ball Baez and Prather will help. Call us at 500-HELP, 500-HELP. With Smith Ball Baez and Prather, help is just a local phone call away. Offices Palm Beach Gardens, Boca Raton, and Port St. Lucie.
DQ Grill and Chill, always your first love for delicious treats. Enjoy the blizzard of the month, Red Velvet Cake Blizzard. Indulge in real red velvet cake pieces and cream cheese icing, blended with DQ Signature Soft Serve. Plus, the $7 meal deal remains in full effect. Your choice of a DQ cheeseburger or a 3-piece chicken strip basket served with fries, a drink, and a sundae for just $7. DQ Grill and Chill with 2 locations, 4828 Lake Worth Road and US 1 just south of North Lake.
Let's go scatter to west, right, tight. F left. 372 Y stick Z spot.
This is Sunday Huddle with Colin Russo, presented by Hard Rock Bet.
Closing out the program here on a Sunday edition of Sunday Huddle, presented by Hard Rock Bet on ESPN 106.3, the last Sunday Huddle of the month of February. March is almost here. That means college basketball time. That means spring training in the thick of it. Cacti Park, I know we got things started yesterday with the Palm Beaches. But Colin Russo, Cade Chumson with you on ESPN 106.3. Cade live from the State Play Studios in downtown West Palm Beach. Colin live from Flagstaff, Arizona, post two-game weekend that I saw with Northern Arizona in the Big Sky Conference and low major Division I college basketball. We got a lot of games today. We got a lot of NBA games this week. It's time for Cade and I to have a little fun here. Let's blitz the book, presented by Hard Rock Bet. Blitzing the book, presented by Hard Rock Bet on ESPN 106.3, where Cade and I are going to put together 3 legs of a parlay on either side. Cade's sticking to the professional end of things. I am sticking to the collegiate, semi-professional way of things. 3 picks apiece. Cade, I believe, is going to go NBA, and I'm going to go college basketball. Cade, it's time for us to blitz the book because presented by Hard Rock Bet. Go download it today in the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store. Go get started today. Hard Rock's great. Caters to both sides. The experienced player has this. The newer player has this. It covers both ends of the spectrum. It's the ultimate type of accessibility that comes with a sports book. Go download it today. It's the best. You go take a look at the lines today. There's a lot of college basketball. You're going to have the NCAA tournament here before we know it. You're going to have the MLB opening day here before we know it. Go pick your futures. Go get your picks in. Hard Rock Bet is the place to be. Try it now. Get up to $100 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not hit. That first bet can't be a parlay, can't be a prop, can't be an over, whatever you like to bet. Any game you choose, win that first bet and get the same amount you bet back as a bonus bet. It's offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically present in Florida. The wager terms and conditions apply. Concerned by gambling, call 1-888-ADMITTED. All right, Cade, you got 3 picks for me on the NBA side. What do you got for me?
Concerning we weren't very good with 2 legs of a parlay in the NFL, I got no idea why we're doing 3 right now, but let's make this happen.
We're going to continue expanding.
All right.
We're like the sports leagues.
All right. First and foremost, this isn't necessarily against the spread, but tonight we've got Spurs versus the Pelicans. Obviously, no Wemby. Sad to hear no Greg Popovich as well on the sideline. I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game against 2 mediocre teams. I'm going to take the under 241.5. So I'm going to go for an over-under here, under the 241.5 total for Spurs and Pelicans tonight.
All right. I'll take my first one. Drake's at Northern Iowa. In college basketball, it's at 2 p.m. over on ESPN2. Drake is fun. Drake's going to be a fun tournament team. All right, so just like mark your calendars, right? Because Drake has Ben McCollum as their head coach. Ben McCollum was at he was in Division II level for 15 years. He was over at Northwest Missouri State. He was a 5-time champion, a 5-time coach of the year there. He's basically like the Phil Jackson of Division II college basketball coaches. He goes to Drake, a team that, you know, their previous coach, DeVries, went to West Virginia. He goes to Drake, brings over his entire Division II roster basically to Drake. They're 24-3. They have beaten a lot of high major Division I teams. And they're at Northern Iowa today getting points. Sign me up. Plus 1.5 Drake at Northern Iowa today. I don't care that it's on the road. I don't know the injury report. I don't know if anybody's hurt. But I am taking Drake. They are not losing that game. They already lost last Sunday. They're not losing 2 Sundays in a row. Give me Drake plus 1.5 today at Northern Iowa. Cade?
Woo, love it. I'm also going to take another game for today. Bucks versus the Heat. I'm going to take the Bucks -5 here. Not really loving anything the Heat have shown me post Jimmy Butler trade. I know that there's definitely a sigh of relief, but the Bucks seem to be hanging around that top 3 or 4 spot in the East right now. I think they're wanting the highest seed they can right now. I'm going to take the Bucks -5.
I'll try not to let my bias show. UConn is playing St. John's today, technically on the road. UConn is getting 4.5 points in this one. They lost to St. John's in their home building basically about 2.5 weeks ago. UConn is getting 4.5 points. I'm taking UConn here. Everybody's healthy for UConn. They're a little banged up. St. John's is good, great defensively, has trouble scoring. Beating that team twice in a three-game span is interesting. You also might be wondering, those who don't understand Big East basketball, it's at St. John's. Well, hold on, it's a road game. It's not a road game. It's at Madison Square Garden. Madison Square Garden is basically what the UConn fans call Stores South. UConn fans travel extremely well to Madison Square Garden. That is going to be a UConn home game. plus 4.5. Give me UConn in this one. That is at 12 o'clock Eastern time on Fox at the Garden. So take a look at that. Cade?
Love it. Later in the week, we've got the big anticipated matchup, Mavs at the Lakers. The Luka revenge game. It's given right now currently -7.5 for the Lake Show, and I'm going to ride with them all the way. Luka with a massive game. You can probably take the over on his points. I don't know what they are right now, but we'll go Lakers -7.5 on Tuesday night in the revenge show for Luka.
I've been thinking about this back and forth. FAU is getting 8.5 points today at Memphis. Memphis is very good. Memphis is 21-5. FAU coming off a bad loss against Wichita State, but they could score. Memphis can score too. So you're going to have a lot of points in this one if FAU is on. Local team, FAU, give me FAU plus 8.5. That is our Blitz the Book parlay presented by Hard Rock Bet. We are no professionals. So let's make that abundantly clear. If you listen to any of our rationales, you can tell. Big thanks to Cade keeping us up over the air, making sure we are up on the waves at ESPN 106.3. Missed any of the program today, you can listen back on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Thanks to Cade Chums and Colin Russo with you. We'll be back at it next week for March edition of Sunday Huddle. We got local programming throughout the week. We got the Cognizant Classic next weekend. We'll be there live on site. That will be a lot of fun. Golf Sunday, big tournament in the Palm Beaches. We'll be there live. Should be a lot of fun. Appreciate you all tuning in. We'll be back at it for I believe a 2-hour edition next week, maybe a 1 of Sunday Huddle.
Noontime next week.
We send you off into your Sunday. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay focused. It's been Sunday Huddle presented by Hard Rock Bet on ESPN 106.3.
Live from the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. This is ESPN 106.3.
The preceding program was paid for in full by Hard Rock Bet. Advice and opinions expressed during this program were solely those of the guests or hosts of this program and not of ESPN 106.3 or Good Karma Brands.
Calling all sports fans, grab your MVP card and head to Duffy's where you can catch all of the action. Not an MVP? Sign up for free and start earning rewards